if I saw another day, only to scream into the night. Nothing ever tries to change, even if I want to realize. 'Cause I've been sitting here, same old ways, taking off without the same mistake. Darling, when you go away, it won't be as simple for you.
Yo, guys, breaking news coming in. Sir Jim Ratcliffe wins. Is Sir Jim Ratcliffe going to be the new owner of Manchester United? I'm joined by, obviously, Tom, the journalist, who's been on quite a few times on this channel, who's arguably, compared to a lot of even the mainstream journalists, has been one of the most reliable sources of information when it comes to this takeover news. Obviously, we've had some brilliant shows over the last week or so, but obviously, breaking news this evening, UK time. Sir Jim Radcliffe, looks like he's obviously going to be in the lead. Tom has graciously come on the show again in order to obviously answer any questions that I have and that we have just about this whole recent development. But before we get into it, before I hand you over to him, remember, guys, if you are new to the channel, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter and X, and smash the notification button for latest Manchester news and more. Usually, I'm on camera. However, I do like this format where I'm not off camera, especially because it can clearly focus on the task, which is asking Tom as many questions as he can answer, whilst obviously giving you guys some good information. And thank you guys for tuning in. Before I get into it, Astro World says our club is going to die if Jim Ratcliffe, the Toad, becomes our owner. Ibrahim Hafija says agreed at Tom. And then Sanjay Hassan says, what's up, RDS? Long time no see, Sanjay. Hope you're doing well. So make sure, obviously, you like the vid and obviously shout out to those who'll be watching once the stream is over. So let's get straight into it. Tom, obviously you sent me, because it was actually for IU, when I read this, and that's why I obviously messaged you, because you gave me the information, So can you just give us a brief summary of where we are? So obviously the report seems to be that Sir Jim Ratcliffe seems to be looking like the preferred bidder. Can you just give us, just for the sake of the viewers around, what the situation is now?
Well, as it stands right now, from when I spoke to you previously, I said that this process, there could be a preferred bidder picked, but it could be private knowledge where it's not been publicly announced for whatever reason, like negotiating terms, or ask the other group a question, like if you want to improve, you want to reevaluate your offer, or whatnot. From where we are now, I can come on here and come on a lot of platforms and state what is being reported, and that is that Sir Jim Ratcliffe, as it stands now, is set to be announced as the preferred bidder to buy Manchester United. And the Glazer family have selected Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and they've selected his proposal to buy 50% of Manchester United and keep Joel and Avram Glazer involved with the club with 20% as minority stakeholders. But the offer that he has made and the terms upon him, if he was to be selected as the preferred bidder, means that Joel and Avram have got to concede control of Manchester United to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, so they would not control the Class B shares. They would be willing to negotiate the Class A shares, which was something that we didn't know before. But now we know they are willing to remove the clause so Sir Jim Ratcliffe can control Manchester United at 50%, with those two being set to be minority investors. So what we know now is privately, because it's not been publicly announced, but privately, Sir Jim Ratcliffe is on the ballot sheet to be Manchester United's preferred bidder, along with the Ineos group. In terms of what happens now, what happens now is the parties have been contacted. Sir Jim has been contacted. Sheikh Jassim and the Qatari delegation have been contacted. They know what has been happened and what has been selected privately. But this is where the big but comes in. Sheikh Jassim has been contacted privately by Rain, but the Rain group have conducted and spoken to Sir Jim Ratcliffe and told him what they are doing. They are going to the Qatari delegation group and they are stating, you can make one final bid. And that bid is and has to be improved upon what your last bid was, which was reported to be in the region of around £5 billion, which I've got no knowledge of the numbers because it's NDA agreements, so nobody knows the numbers. So they're going to the Qatari delegation and saying, you need to improve your offer. You need to go up with what you have submitted. If you don't, Sir Jim Ratcliffe will be publicly announced as the preferred bidder. If you want to be the preferred bidder, you have to pay more. And if you pay more to be preferred bidder, we will put you on the ballot sheet and you will stay on the ballot sheet. That is it. And the reason why that is because Sir Jim Ratcliffe has got nothing else to give. He has nothing else. He can't give any more money. He's given all he's got right now to buy 50%. And that's just 50%. He's given all that he has right now to buy 50%. And it means that he has to keep 2 of Joel and Avram in. Sheikh Jassim, in this case, he can buy all of them out, but he has to pay more to buy all of them out. And as I reiterated before, the bid that Sir Jim has put in, valuing Manchester United at 50%, is worth more than what Sheikh Jassim would value Manchester United worth from his most recent bid, which would have been if he was bidding for 50%. But he's not. He's bidding for the whole 69 and then a further 31. But because he's made statements of infrastructure, develop investment into the women's, youth and men's teams, because he's made those statements, he has got money after purchase. So he has the money to do more things after purchase. So effectively, he can take out of the budget that he was going to use after purchase to then invest into his bid now to make sure he gets the club. But the point we are at is privately, Sir Jim is on the ballot sheet as the preferred bidder. That I can confirm. Will it be publicly announced? Well, they have given Sheikh Jassim 48 hours from today, which will give him until Monday if you want to submit a further bid. But if it's not an improved offer, forget it. You're done. You're out of the process. Sir Jim is going to go into an exclusive period with the Glazer family. So it now is in Qatar's hands because if Sheikh Jassim wants Manchester United as much as he said he has, and he's come this far to try and get it, now he has to go all in. If he's got anything more to give, he has to give it now. And if he doesn't, Manchester United will be in the hands of the Glazer family along with Sir Jim Ratcliffe in a partnership. So the stage we're at now is he has 48 hours and the Qatari delegation have 48 hours to decide if they want to, as people are quoting it anyway, an 11th hour bid, if you want to put in a last-ditch offer to try and acquire the club and put your name on the ballot sheet. If you do so, you'll be selected as preferred bidder if it's over the requirements of what is a, if you like, a fair offer. Maybe not what the Glazer family exactly want, but enough to interest them to negotiate with you and select you ahead of others. So, in this case, as we've said before, the brains and the minds have spoken. We now know what Joel and Avram have been thinking. And they want to stay. Those two brothers want to stay because they've selected Sir Jim. But money talks. If the Qataris give them more money, their mind could suddenly go overdrive. It's like, well, we know it with a British reality TV show, Love Island, where people get turned and things like that. We know with these people, money can turn their heads. You offer them a bit more money, I'm sure they'll reconsider. And if they do, like I say, the Rain Group are offering the Qataris a way back in. They're offering them effectively to make the ballot sheet. Just bid higher. So if they do bid higher, they will be selected ahead of Sir Jim. And Sir Jim, he doesn't have anything else left to give. So effectively, he's kicked out of the process when he thought it was won. But it's not won yet. He's just been selected as it is now. So unless the Qataris come up with more money, Sir Jim will be announced as the preferred bidder from next week onwards.
Thank you, Tom. I'm going to quickly just read some comments. I have a few quick questions. Obviously, for those who are watching, shout out to the 20 plus of people watching. Make sure that you like the video. It helps with the algorithm. Like the video, subscribe, vote in the polls. It goes a long way. We're on our road to 3.5k subscribers, so please hit the like and subscribe button as well. Let me just quickly read some comments that are coming in. As Sanjay says, had a lot of work, but I'm back to watch you and others. Thank you, Sanjay. He says, I can't trust Dream Market Man. How can you call yourself a United fan, but also agree to work with the Glazers, who are killing the club? He said, another source saying Qatar isn't backing down, Chicks will make his Olympic. And that obviously is, Tom has addressed that. We'll come back to that in a second. Motomok says, Jim is a poor guy with no money, but wanting to claim. Kosi Masanja says, it is never definitely said he is the preferred bidder. Why is it not formally announced? Well, again, hopefully from what you've heard from Tom, the journalist, you can kind of understand why. Sanchez says, Sola says, I have hope, but also a lot of doubts because I have hope, but also a lot of doubts because the gym has run Nice for a while now. It's not likely they are seen as top class in France. But we'll get into that debate, I think. I think that's an interesting conversation, though. So, because, I see a lot on Twitter saying, well, Qatar and PSG, and therefore Sheikh Jassim is going to run United like PSG. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, Sajim Moss runs Nice and Nice where they are Nice. So, I think it's apples and oranges because, quite frankly, I think the French league is ass, but that's neither here nor there. Keyman, who's obviously a hater, says, up the Radcliffe, big up artists in the panel. Thanks for stopping by, Keyman, man, appreciate it. So let's just quickly go. So I just want to dissect some of the things that you said to, because I think this is key because, like I said, I think you provide a lot of balance to this whole conversation, to which a lot of people obviously are quite reactionary. So I think the first key thing is that actually, Toman has a question before I answer my question. Shout out to Toman in the chat. Question: wouldn't you say that the Glazers actually want to sell the club, given the fact that they're giving the Qataris a way back in, or do you think they are undecided and money is a deciding factor? Which is one of my questions, to be honest. But yeah, what do you think, Tom?
Well, as we've been saying pretty much for the whole process myself, there has not been a hard deadline. They have not said, that's it, nobody else can come in. And I've always used the example of Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates. One of them, they could wake up the next day and say, I want to buy Manchester United. And there's nothing stopping them. Yeah. If they offered what the Glazer family want financially, the Glazer family will take their offer. Yeah. There's nothing stopping that happening. And effectively, maybe the Glazer family are delusional in terms of that they was thinking that one of those people were going to do that. But the Qataris in this case have the financial backing to buy Manchester United at any figure that they want. But they're not just going to do it for the sake of it, because they have a contingency plan. They had a set amount that they wanted to buy it with, and then what they wanted to invest after purchase. And yeah, they might have to take out of they are going to have to take out of the budget of what they were going to invest after purchase if they want to buy it now. Well, yes, you can say from what Atonement's comment is in terms of is it giving the Qataris a way to come back in? Well, yes, they've not shut the door on the Qataris, and the reason why they've not shut the door on the Qataris is because they know the Qataris have more to give. So Jim don't have anything to give, so it suits to make him the preferred bidder right now. But if you keep the Qataris at arm's length and say, well, here's your ultimatum, give more money or you're out, now's the time to, if you from what people have quoted anyway, blow the competition out of the water. If you're going to do it, now's the time to do it. You don't have any more phases, rounds, stages, this is it. And to even give him the option to do that, it means that they want more money out of the Qatari bid. Because if they picked the Qataris and then they went and rang Sajim up and Ineos up and said, listen, we want more money out of you, otherwise we're picking the Qataris, well, Sajim ain't got anything else that he can give. He's stretched enough as it is financially, and he's having to use a proposal that he didn't want to use initially anyway. So, effectively, he's got nothing else to give, whereas the Qataris in this case, they have the financials still there where they can pay more than what they are paying right now. So, effectively, I hope that answered the question as to the Qataris have more to give. That's why they are being left here right now. If the Qataris were just some Todd, like a Todd Bowley from America or somebody like that, I'm sure they would have been probably thrown by the wayside, because they probably wouldn't. They'd been in the same boat with Sir Jim, where they don't have anything else left to give. They've already given it. Whereas the Qataris, they can easily just pluck up another £1 billion, and Sheikh Jassim can, if he wanted to, just pluck up £1 billion like that and pay it. But he's not forced to. And to be honest with you, I don't honestly believe personally anyway, I don't think he should. If people are disappointed that he doesn't buy Manchester United for a ridiculous figure, why? Because if you're in his position, would you really want to overpay for something that, if you love the club, you've done a lot in the short term. You've even made up a business from nothing in the 9-2 Foundation to classify it as a connection with Man United. Whereas Sir Jim Ratcliffe's been, I were at the 99 final. You know, my boy at Man United fan, I'm a local lad, you know.
Putting the Manchester back in Manchester United, you know.
Well, I always novelled it as being writing a love poem, really, from his personal statement that he made. It was very similar to how Chelsea was, but he just changed the football club names, really. And ultimately, you can say it for what it is. But no, the Qataris at the end of the day have more to give at the table. And Sir Jim, if you like, he's put all his cards on the table because he can't do any more. He's done all that he can now. So if Sheikh Jassim wanted to drop another couple of £100 million on his bid and say, right, that's it, I'm all in now, I'm not going any higher, that is it. And then the Glazers then have to reconsider because they're getting more money for all of them to go, whereas Sir Jim can't offer you anything more. He's already, you know what he can offer you, but you don't know what Sheikh Jassim can offer you until you let him have another go. So that's why they are letting him have another go. So then they do know. Then they can't say, oh, what if we'd have gave that Qatari sheikh another chance? What if? They don't like what ifs, the Glazer family. They like answers. Just like Manchester United fans want answers, but they've not been getting them. But when it comes to money, these guys, they don't want answers, but they need answers. Because they need to know what's going to impact their bank balances. That's why.
That's fair, Tom. Thank you so much for addressing. Hopefully, Tom answers your question. Mawada says, "I don't think people realize how bad the Glazers are. We don't and never need all money to compete. I've won and popping bottles that we're finally rid of the pestilence." Well, as you know, as Tom said, we're rid of them potentially in the sense that they'll be minority investors, but
they don't have control.
But they don't. But they won't. But they won't have full control.
They're basically just a silent partner. But they have a 20% of whatever Manchester United. Like if Sir Jim makes a success of it, they could get more money. But listen, Sir Jim, he could lose all his money. I don't know, in a scandal, a lawsuit overnight.
This was one of my questions. Is that I mean, just putting aside the Glazers, I just think about. So I'm just thinking, with the Qatari bid, people say, Qatar bid enough. It's like you're in a situation where we're thinking the Qatar bid is close to 5 billion, right? Which is already more than it's one of the most expensive purchases of any sporting club on the planet. So I don't know why a lot of United fans are saying, well, we should bid more. Like 5 billion is. Do you know any sporting club in any sport that's been sold for that amount? That's the first thing. So I think I think what's so funny is just that this idea that Qatar was kind of expected to, because we just assume they have billions of pounds and just sort of throw it, that they're expected to just bid billions of pounds. But with Sir Jim, the fans seems to accept that, oh yes, Sir Jim doesn't have billions of pounds. We'll accept him taking loans and loan the debt, etc. But the point I'm also trying to make here is that from a Glazers perspective, I just don't understand how they're betting that as minority shareholders that they really must believe that in the next 10 years, Manchester United's value is going to go up. And I'm like, I don't understand how you believe United's value is going to go up if ultimately there is no investment in the stadium. There is no investment in like the women's team, men's team, all these different sorts of things. There's no guarantee for success at the highest level with what Sir Jim is. I don't know, unless Sir Jim and thing is, part of this is we don't know what Sir Jim's proposal is. We know what Qatar's proposals are and what they want to do, but we don't know what Sir Jim's motives are. So
there is a reason why, though. There is a reason why he doesn't have this plan or proposal, is G, because when you only have the money to buy half, you already know that he doesn't have the money to do a lot afterwards. Because if you can only buy half, well, if you've got the money to invest afterwards, why not buy the whole thing?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing a new proposal? Like, he's been submitted to do so. You wouldn't, would you? If you have the money, you're going to buy it all. Then you wouldn't have the whole saga. And a lot of people maybe would be more on board with Sir Jim if he did win, if he gets rid of all of them. Because at the end of the day, he has, if you like, won by playing fair. And he's not, a lot of Man United fans can say it for what they want. He's snaked the fans, if you want to say for that, by keeping two of them in. So see it for what it is, really.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Vakusa again says, Sancho, it's a bit of bait and switch. If you're definitely something, you're definitely that. The process far from Qatar pay 5-1. And so Vakusa still thinks that Qatar will go through. Keyman says, no all watching football. There stands in Manchester United. Hashtag renewable energy. Hashtag Reds for red. Again, Keyman, I think he was a Liverpool fan, just like Bart was a Liverpool fan. I'd love to see Sheikh Jassim own our club. He's got the keys to war chest. But unfortunately, Bart, the problem is your owner has come out and said that Liverpool is not for sale. That it just is what it is. That's just not happening. And United have conceded as many goals away from home as Everton. I expect that a lot of this has to do with the lack of strength and depth and the really tough schedule United post. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Okay, so just some more. I guess just some more questions just regarding the whole. Just I guess with the Glazers. I mean, because there was a part of me that was thinking, okay, but really and truly, do the Glazers, because Jim, Avram, and Joe seem to be adamant that they want to stay. So is Sheikh Jassim really in a losing game here? So because if Joel and Avram really want to stay, can Al-Fani, can Sheikh Jassim really offer anything, or do you think that maybe it's a situation where they want Sheikh Jassim to do a similar thing to what Sir Jim Ratcliffe is doing? Like, essentially, what I'm trying to say is that like is this all just like a bait and switch? And at the end of the day, the biggest stumbling block here, because I think the reports what I was reading were kind of saying that the thing that twisted and the reason why Sir Jim is the preferred bidder is because he gave them an option to allow Avram and Joel to stay. So even if Qatar increased the bid, etc., will that actually be enough when it seems anyway that Joel and Avram want to stay? I mean, what do you think about that, Tom?
I would think so. I would think if you're going to offer somebody more money so that they leave, like, why not? But the thing that Sheikh Jassim has been consistent about the whole way through in his delegation is we're not keeping any of the Glazer family in. It's full takeover or no takeover. It's deal or no deal. That's it. Like, if we're not keeping one of you in at 1%, we want all of it, and we want it done here and now. We want all of it gone. We want the debt gone. We want to invest in a stadium, a women's team. They've given people a vision and a project to look forward to. Whereas Sir Jim, he initially gave that when he said he wanted 69% of Man United. He wanted a majority share. Yeah, and now he's backtracked because he undervalued the club, as I've said the story about previously, where he undervalued the club going into the talks at Old Trafford. And by doing so, he could only afford a partial sale, which was 50%. But he's giving the Glazer family really what they wanted 18 months to 2 years ago when they went to Apollo Investment Group. Buy our siblings out and keep us as shareholders and financiers to stay. The only difference is Sir Jim is willing to do that. So long as he has control of Manchester United, he doesn't care if he has the Glazer family sitting there with 20%, because ultimately they don't have any influence over him. They just own 20%. Then the Glazer family's influence will be more on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers than it will ever be on Manchester United. So at the end of the day, they have something else to work upon, whereas they still own an entertainment of a percentage in a very successful football club. And look, Sir Jim, like, if he turned Manchester United into a brilliant football club again, winning trophies, competing at the highest level, improving a stadium, those kind of things. Like the club valuation will only increase. We know that, but the only problem with the club valuation increasing is, and it's the same thing where there was reports came out about the Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants to insert a clause where he can buy the Glazers out after 3 years. The problem with said clause is both parties can trigger it, whether it be the two Glazer brothers or Sir Jim, but the other one's also got to agree to it. And if Joel and Avram say no, now's not the time to sell, then they can't. Then Sir Jim can't buy them out because of the clause. Both parties have to agree upon whomever instigates the buyout. It's same if the Glazer brothers say trigger the clause and say, Sir Jim, we want you to buy us out now, or we want to be bought out. Sir Jim will get, if you like, first refusal to buy. If he doesn't buy, all right, fine, we'll sell a 20% stake to a private equity firm, or we'll sell it to a minority investor, like the like of whom are in the process right now. A Elliott Management, a Carlyle Group, an Oak Tree Capital, that sort of investment or private equity firm. And suddenly Manchester United are then owned by 20% of a bank, really, which we know really where that sort of investment's going to go. But
of course.
It's the balance of probability. But Sheikh Jassim in this case right now, I don't really think he's got a lot to lose now, because if he has, like we say, if the money that he's put now down is all that he was willing to put down initially, he's just got to take out of what he was willing to invest after purchase. If he really wants this club, I think he will do that, because he will always be able to replenish his funds, because he is an investor and he has a bank that he is a chairman of. So Jim is the complete opposite. He's a businessman. His business can be a success one year, a failure the next. It don't matter. So that's the balance between the two. But no, I personally, I do think Sheikh Jassim will come in with a last-ditch offer, if I had to predict, because you don't come this far to lose. I'm sorry, you don't. You don't. It doesn't matter if it was Sir Jim and it was the other way around. I still think Sir Jim would come in with another proposal if boot was on the other foot. Because if you've come this far, like you've come 6 months and messed about for 6 months to get something that badly, that then you end up not getting it. It's just unthinkable. It really is unthinkable. But as we said, the Qataris and Sheikh Jassim, before they think about their own personal agendas of being a Manchester United supporter and those things like that, you do have to think of the business side of it. And if it's not a good investment, you don't pay it. It's as simple as that. But because Sir Jim Ratcliffe has valued Manchester United at 50% over the odds than Sheikh Jassim, that's the reason why he's looking at being more of the preferred bidder than the Qataris are. But the Qataris can always bid more to buy the whole thing. That's why. So effectively, they've got to make an offer that turns Joel and Avram's minds and thinks, no, right, they've offered us more money now. That's what we're going to go for now. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he can spit his dummy out. He can say, well, you made me preferred bidder and blah, blah, blah. It's a gentleman's agreement. Nothing was publicly announced. It was private. So in a lot of people's eyes, like, what happens in private stays in private, you know. Unfortunately, that's just how it is, unfortunately. And Sir Jim, like, right, fine. Sir Jim, have you got anything else that you can propose? Well, no, that was it. I can't afford any more than 50%. And I'm scraping at it with a proposal that I've made. Because he never had the money to buy Man United out fully against the Qataris. He never had that sort of money. So he had to do something else, which was cut a deal. And you can understand why the Glazer family have selected this bid, because it suits them because they get money on the side, but they also get to stay, which that's just like Disneyland for them, unfortunately. But it is what it is, really, isn't it?
Right, thanks again for that. Let me quickly just go some comments. I think there's, again, get your questions in for Tom and if you have any questions for me as well. So we'll be obviously live for a little bit longer. Let me just quickly. Okay. But again, so Jim would be a good owner for United. He's from the area. Inos owns both. And these potential partner clubs, most of the company post profits are around 3.5 billion annually. Okay. Atonement with the question says, does the current timeline of picking a preferred bidder work with getting everything finalized before the beginning of the summer window, or are Manchester United behind schedule? That's a very good question, actually, because I was seeing reports there of United talking about Kim Min Jae as a defender, and I was kind of like, and everyone's talking about it, and like I hadn't understand how we're even in the conversation with Kim Min Jae when there's been no communication to the manager, who's actually openly said, I don't know what my transfer budget is or who's coming in. Like, I mean, I don't know what you think about that, Tom, just briefly.
Yeah, well, in terms of the timeline of what Atonement has said, Manchester United are behind the schedule. If you want to be plain and simple of it, because the reason why is if it was a full buyout, Manchester United are behind schedule because there is a lot more that has to go into a full buyout because you have a lot more money that needs processing. You have a lot more checks because it's a full takeover. So then you have the Premier League owners and directors test. You have UEFA's financial unfairity laws that you have to pass, and there's the different governing bodies that you have to facilitate and you have to satisfy. But then you've also got to satisfy the person you're buying it off of. And in the case of with Sir Jim Ratcliffe will pass an owners and directors test easily because he's already a club owner just in another country. So if he already owns a club, we already know he's going to pass the test. So that's not a problem. That's not a hurdle. The UEFA financial unfairity clarity laws, that's a little bit harder because he already owns. Well, he owns two clubs, but one of them is effectively a European pushing sort of team in Nice, where they'll be in Europe one year, next year they won't. So there's complications there because Manchester United and Nice could never meet in a European competition. They can never meet. And if they were to clash, one or two of the teams would have to drop two European, if you like, competitions down. So if both teams qualify for the Champions League, Man United could be in the Conference League or Nice could be in the Conference League, whatever. That's decided upon the owners and UEFA. So in terms of the schedule for a full buyout, if the Qataris were to be put on the ballot sheet as the preferred bidders, hypothetically, then they are behind schedule because there's a lot more work that needs to go into that. Ergo, it's going to take more time. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, on the other case, you could have Sir Jim Ratcliffe selected as preferred bidder publicly next week, and you could probably have a deal wrapped up. Could probably have a deal agreed upon by him and the Glazer family by the end of May, and you could probably have him in the hot seat probably by mid-June. If I mean like that, if I'm just giving a middle sort of time frame, so you would be beyond the summer transfer window, but you're only 2 weeks into it or a week and a half into it, whatever sort of schedule. Whereas the Qataris, there's a lot more that has to go into that deal, but there's a lot more that has to go into the deal to get that a full takeover line. But Sir Jim Ratcliffe has a lot more to hurdles and obstacles because he already owns football teams. So look at it from either perspective. Both of them are going to face problems if a deal gets agreed. So time will tell and things will drag out a lot longer than maybe they were supposed to be. But that's just how the outlook of it is anyway with the two parties.
That's fair. Thanks, Tom, for clarifying that. I'm just reading a few more comments. I think there's again a few more questions. So Jim, it's a serious worry concerning the long-term investment in the stadium and training grounds. I think that's a fair point, Solo. But it could be that as none of the parties are ready to meet the $6 billion target, the best one was to reach a compromise with the Glazers, who also seem to be keen enough to join ESL. Well, there is that. Obviously, there is that, which is a worry. 2.5 billion into invest in the stadium, training ground, first teams was going to kind of so factor on top. Oh, exactly, and that's why the sheikh. That's why this is what I'm saying. The Sheikh Jassim situation for me always seemed, because you got to understand. The way I saw it is that overall, Sheikh Jassim's what Sheikh Jassim is offering is more overall for United, because he's offering the 5 billion straight to goes which is already more than. Remember, United's only really worth somewhere between 3 to 3.5 billion realistically. So he's already overpaying for Manchester United, and then on top of that, wiping the debt, investing in a new stadium, training ground, etc. So really and truly, most of Sheikh Jassim's investments would probably end up totaling in excess of 8, maybe 9 billion pounds overall. But with Sir Jim, he said, well, I don't have enough money to buy I don't have enough money to even compete with the Qatari bid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to overpay for half of the club, and then what I'm going to then do is slowly but surely try and buy out the Glazers. But we have no indication about if any of that money that he has, invest money, is gonna go into the stadium, is going to go into women's teams, going to go into academy, etc. And if that money is going to come, it's going to either come from, I don't know, Ineos profits or further bank loans. Is that what people want? I'm not entirely sure. Copper Andy says the Glazers are expecting the Super League, else they wouldn't be getting in bed with Rat Boy Jim. Now Jassim has to up his bid. I mean, this Super League thing. I mean, if maybe is that what people think? Is the reason why the Glazers want to stay is that they're thinking that in 2 or 3 years a Super League will come and then they'll get more. I don't know. Maestro shout to Maestro says Rain Group told Glazer family either takes a gym that allows them to stay or take the Qatar bid. Probably bid. Glazer family took a gym and deal because it allows them to stay, and we kind of touched on that. Sage would be great for us as he can help in developing Melwood. Well, it would. Unfortunately, your owner, like I said that Liverpool is not up for sale. Just investment, which Sage isn't interested in just investment. I'll be surprised if Qatar overpaid for Manchester United. Well, I think to be fair, even maybe Sajim, I don't know, but like United is only worth arguably 3 to 3.5 billion. We know for a fact that the Qatari bid is close to around 5 billion, so it's definitely overpaid. 6 billion. People need to remember, fans need to remember, United is not worth 6 billion.
No,
it is not worth 6 billion. If they were to give, that's overpaying. You know, so the Qataris are definitely overpaying for Manchester United.
If you wanted to give like a real life scenario, it's like you go into a shop, like you get a price of I don't know, a can of Coke nowadays. What is it, like £1? Like you could go into a shop and are you going to pay if it's costing £2 just for a can, £3? Then somebody says, no, I want 4, I want 5, I want 6. Suddenly you get into ridiculous money for a can of Coke. Like, yeah, you can say it for what it is, but Man United is £1 billion business, which the valuation of it will only ever go up unless there's going to be something drastic and major that happens. But stranger things have happened. We've just seen in the banking world, Credit Suisse, like investment back out of Switzerland.
Hold on with that. There's a question about that. So I'll come back to that. So just hold on to that thought, Tom. Really, hold on to that thought. We shouldn't allow countries who taxpayers' money to purchase domestic football clubs. I don't think they pay that much that tax in Qatar, actually, so it probably won't be taxpayers' money. Qatar's going to buy Spurs Liverpool if it doesn't succeed. Well, imagine if they go and buy Spurs. Buddy. Don Smoke says, so Jimmy for the win, obviously, because City are going to win the treble. I hope Sheikh Jim will use bid to help find let's go with lastly. Well, this is better PR than buying Manchester United. Well, I also hope that Sir Jim uses his money to stop with these petrochemical, debacles that are polluting the planet. Vicosa says no one is going out on a limb and saying it is so. That is very odd. This is still under wraps. They're not. I don't think an official announcement of Vicosa is gonna come until at earliest the end of next week. So at the earliest, and as Thomas sort of said, the reality is that there is, contrary to what reports say, there's been no official what's the word? A deadline announcement, but the deadline. So in theory, as Thomas said, Elon Musk could come now that they know roughly what the 6 million could go. Yeah, I'm going to offer 7 billion, and the Glazers would go, okay, sure, that's fine. You know what I mean? So
yeah, can happen.
Dodgeham says, yes, you can come this far to lose. Ask Arsenal, says Don Smoke. Don Smoke said, why would you come so far? It's like, yes, just ask Arsenal. So shout out to Don Smoke, man. So let's have a look. Just David T just has a comment. I was going to quickly say the Qatari journalists on Twitter are saying that it's all PR requested by the intermediate. I'm in the camp of waiting and seeing. I'm not calling over yet. Okay. And King Stash for the super chat. I'm going to say something to go back to some of the comments. Shout out to King Stash who supports the man. If you want to support the channel, by the way, consider becoming a member. I want to try and get the member hangouts back and trying to post some member exclusive content over this weekend. I've got some time, so stay tuned. Bro, do you think Radcliffe will be like Todd B? No, because I don't know where Radcliffe is going to get the money from to invest in a lot of things. I don't. I don't. I think he'll be a British glazer personally, but we'll see what happens. Let me just go back, because there was another question from from Atoman. Guys, if you have questions, obviously get in the chat. Do you think and this is obviously you touched on this briefly, Tom, do you think the Credit Suisse collapse has any effect of the sale? There were reports that the collapse affected the Qataris.
I don't think so personally.
Okay.
Like Credit Suisse is a Swiss, well, it was anyway. It was a Swiss commission and investment bank. That's what it was at the end of the day. Sheikh Jassim, funnily enough, as an individual, worked on the board of Credit Suisse for, I think it was 6 years, and I think he only left 6 years ago when he was he was on the board of Credit Suisse anyway. He was one of the main executives of the bank, and then he went back to his homeland, got a native job, and was now the chairman of QIB, one of the biggest investment banks in Qatar. So I don't really understand why the Credit Suisse collapse would have an impact on the Qataris, because Credit Suisse was never financing Sheikh Jassim's offer. He's being advised by Bank of America. Advised and being financed is different. You're hiring people to advise you. Whereas, for example, with Sir Jim, he's got JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs to finance him with bonds and loans to buy Manchester United, and then utilise the debt that's on Manchester United and either put some of it on Ineos's books, all of it, or you don't know with this guy, maybe none of it. But at the end of the day, you can see it for what it is. But no, I wouldn't say the collapse on Credit Suisse has any impact on the Qataris, because at the end of the day, QIA, as a stakeholder in Credit Suisse, it was a big investor into it. But QIB also have big investments elsewhere. Like they fund Barclays Bank, the Qataris. So Barclays Bank is a major bank in the UK for a lot of people anyway, who might be native Brits. So Jim Ratcliffe will know that. Like, he knows that the Qataris have brilliant and done well in terms of the investments. Like the World Cup, they spent billions of pounds on it, but it put Qatar on the map, really. Everybody knew who they were. They were just a little country, on the Arabian Sea, if you like. Whereas now, a lot of people know what Qatar is, who they are, what they're about, like the emirs, the sheikhs, the religion, the culture. You know a lot more about that country and even that region, effectively. So, no, I wouldn't personally say that the Credit Suisse collapse had any sort of problem with them. I mean, even a lot of people that might not know anyway, the Qatar, it was a similar group, but it wasn't actually, Sheikh Jassim was, how can I say, he was asked that in I think it was 2011, there was the group, wasn't there, the Red Knights, that was formed of a bunch of billionaires. And you had people like Michael Knighton, who people know who he is anyway, whether you want to believe it, that he had the financial backing behind him or not. He was sounding out people like Lord Jim O'Neill. He was sounding out people like Sir Jim Ratcliffe to say, let's build a consortium, let's buy the Glazer family out of their shareholding. Let's build a group of us together and buy it as Manchester United fans. Sheikh Jassim, at the time, I could be wrong, I think he was around 31 years old at the time. He was asked by the Red Knights if he wanted to join the consortium group. And at the time, he was obviously on the board of Credit Suisse, which is what I've just linked in with him before. So because he's a sitting board member at an investment bank and he wasn't a chairman of Credit Suisse, he doesn't really have the accessibility to funds, whereas now he does, effectively, if he wanted to use QIB to invest into Manchester United via the 9-2 Foundation. But the Credit Suisse collapse does not have any relevance to do with Manchester United, because if he was using Credit Suisse, he would only use it as in an advisory capacity. He's not going to use it. Why would you use another bank's credentials when you're the chairman of one of them and you're a banker yourself? The only reason why he's using the Bank of America is because, in terms of a lot of the investments that his bank and connections that he has, Bank of America and QIB have a good working relationship with investments, especially in the US. So that's one of the reasons as to why he's used and selected the Bank of America to advise him on his offer and his bid.
That makes sense. Thanks for coming. And guys, like I said, use this. You know, Thomas obviously giving his time. Thomas, I would argue, from this whole process, would be one of the most credible journalists that I've come across. Non-reactionary, just giving you the clear facts. So if you have questions or comments for Tom, get them in. So because you're not going to get this sort of clear, precise, non-reactionary information that that a lot of you guys will just see on Twitter. So get your questions in as we sort of continue the show. Let me just quickly skim through some comments. If United are really interesting toppling Manchester, then they should seriously look to have tie-ups with clubs across Collins back the manager most of all spend on character, and that's fair. Keenan's boyhood club fan versus cartoon villain or about. I know who I'm choosing. Keyman, apparently he said he was a Chelsea fan as well, so I don't understand. Next season's top four race will be the most cutthroat as Villa, Brighton, and Newcastle could join Liverpool, City, Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs. United, so forth. I think Villa will probably fall away. But we'll see what happens. Newcastle are the ones that I'm probably most concerned about because I don't think anyone. There's always a few teams I've been Brighton that do what, but then managerial things, you don't know where De Zerbi might go, etc. So they are building teams on those. Newcastle is the one I'm concerned about because no one expected them to do so well so quickly in one season. Like they went from a relegation side to a top four side playing very, very good football, and now they have money to spend back. So unlike the Leicesters, all those teams that they just sneak into top four, but they don't really have the money to really kind of invest and build. Newcastle do. So that's why I'm concerned about Newcastle. No matter owns the club, Eric Green needs 3/4 of his signs with him on the flight to the USA. Kim says Jiminy Cricket versus Jafar from Aladdin. Hashtag save. Kiman, you're a troll, man. You are a troll, man. You are a troll. You are a troll. Let's just quickly Jogger Benito says shame on them for not having this done by the transfer window. Fair say don't care, and that's a fair point as well. Marsha says if it takes a month to the deal go through though, if the Glazers takes the full payout rule, yes, it'll take some time. Jogger says how'd they pay for Anthony? Visa?
Never know. There might be an IOU or whatever.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Drone Freak says it done yet? It's not done yet. No confirmation. Clickbait. This is not. This is not clickbait or confirmation. This is the reports are going around that he is the preferred bidder. Obviously, it's not official. You're not going to get an official comment for quite some time. But we've got a journalist in the know here. So if you have questions, then by all means ask Drone Freak. United is worth more than 3.5 billion. Chelsea is valued at 4 billion. United is a major footballing institution in England and the world. Was Chelsea valued at 4 billion? I think they were sold around that, but were they actually valued at 4 billion?
There was at the time, Roman Abramovich at the time he had an offer from Todd Bowley. I think it was 2019. It was a private bidding offer of 2.2 billion pounds, and he said no. But when he first came out with the statement that he was selling Chelsea Football Club, he was instigating that he wanted 3 billion. So he valued it anyway at 3 billion, and he was the owner. So it could be valued at max 3 billion or even less than 3 billion. But if your own owner values it at 3 billion pounds and he's a billionaire oligarch, I don't think he would have valued it at 3 if he thought he could have got 4 maybe. But he hasn't even seen any of the proceeds of that sale anyway because of what happened with the war in Ukraine. So I guess it's a different scenario. But with how the stock exchange works, because Man United is on New York Stock Exchange, the valuation of Manchester United is valued in the region of £3.5 billion if you convert it back from the dollars. So it's harder to say for Chelsea because they're not listed on an exchange rate or any of the different global investment sites or anything. All you know is from what Chelsea was bought for by Todd Bowley and Clear Lake Capital. That's the only way that you can, if you like, evaluate what Chelsea's worth in comparison to Man United.
Fair enough. Nelly G says, salute, brother. I'm a Manchester United fan, ex-City fan. That's interesting. You were a City fan, and now you're a United fan.
Don't start the fire into the frying pan, mate.
Shout out to J2S, but I hope you're doing well, buddy. I think that this is just Glazer PR kicking in because the sales saga is finally closing soon. Possibly, but I don't know. It's not looking good, man. It's not looking good. By the way, like if guys, let us know in the comments if we might have like a call in. So if some of you guys that want to come onto the show and want to have someone to ask Tom some questions, then let me know. Just put say yes in the chat if you want to call in a live call in. Just let us know, okay? Omela Afonso says if he can't afford to buy Man United, let him continue with Nice Football Club. Mowada says British Glazer. These people, the banker that helped them buy the club in charge and proceed to siphon Team United. Harshly, at least ODS. Well, is it though? Is it though? Because at the end of the day, the way I kind of when I say British Glazer, what I'm trying to say, Moda, is that how is Sir Jim financing his ownership of the club? That's what I'm. When they're talking about siphon Team, how is Sir Jim financing the club? Because the Glazers bought the Manchester United on significant debt and owe the club with debt. So Jim Radcliffe removing the debt? How is he buying the club? Because, and then on top of that, how is he going to improve the infrastructure? How is he going to invest in the women's team, etc.? Where's that money coming from? Because it's got to be coming from borrowing some debt. And where's that debt going to go? On the club? Is the hope that in 3 or 5 years that Manchester United are suddenly now going to somehow get their money? Like I don't know about you, but like the way I see football, I don't see how in the next 5 years, even maybe God forbid 10 years, how Manchester United end up becoming more valuable than they are now. How? Based on what? If it's based on club success, then that means that we need to invest in our training facilities. It means that we need to invest in invest in getting key quality players, a team, etc. Which may happen. Fair enough. I'm not saying that could happen. If it's on the actual revenue streams, including revenue streams, then we need to invest in Old Trafford. We need to invest in our international goals. We need to. There's so many things that we need to do from a structure point of view that requires money. I don't know where that's going to come from. So someone needs to tell me how Manchester United in the next what the plan is, the next 5 or 10 years, they're going to make Manchester United more valuable than they are now. Because as it stands right now, the only reason why even stock prices are going high or low is just because of the speculation that United might go to the Qataris. That's it. As soon as that speculation is over, the share price is going to go down. And especially if there's negativity on the football club, it's going to go further down. And if Newcastle end up doing well, if Arsenal or other rival teams end up doing well next season, I just don't know where the value is. I just don't know where it is. Jado says, big up Ardis and Tom. Amela says, we need Qatar to buy a club, not Sir Jim. United Red, shout to my Twitter, says, Tom, do you think Qatar will bid again?
I think they will. Why not? They've got nothing to lose. Like, if they don't bid now, then if they don't bid now, they're not going to get it. It's as simple as that. If they don't bid again, then they ain't getting it because Sir Jim's already on the ballot sheet. So you have to bid a credible offer to kick him off of it, essentially. And if you don't do it, well, right, you've lost out. Then it's done. So I think they'll bid again.
J2 is against his right in bed with the Glazers is the reason he is his supposed advantage. United versus Chelsea was valued at 2.5 billion. I had a feeling. I said 4. I don't think they were valued at 4 billion. They definitely wouldn't have been. It says how much of the media said the third bid were the last bids. Now hearing Qatar want to do a 4th bid shows many people in the media just recycling on so they don't much. Respect to Tom gives plain facts. Yeah, and I agree with that. You know, and like I said, and Tom has come out and said, it's like at the end of the day, you know, there's never been a official deadline because as long as someone is willing to pay what the Glazers want, the Glazers will probably take the offer, you know. So, but the ball clearly is in the court of the Qataris now. Another question from Toman says, how far negotiational talks do you think Manchester United could get with a definitive owner? I'm confused. Yeah, we sort of kind of touched on this a little bit. So I'm really going to go through familiar ground. But in summary, the transfer window, we are obviously, if I understand with Tom, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, you know, if United want to go for a full taker, we are behind in the transfer window process. We just are, you know. So I think any sort of definitive links with Kim Min Jae are probably very premature if we're going to go down to Forte, because by the time all that process is done, we're at least probably 2, maybe 3 weeks into the transfer window if we get something soon. So I think the Kim Min Jae talks are. I'm not saying that the scouting team, all these people are probably, you know, are working. I'm not saying that they haven't had conversations. Of course, the scouting team probably had conversations a while back, you know, what you're doing, etc. But in terms of actually anything definitive, like we're going to sign and we're going to put X amount of money away for this, that's definitely not happened. I mean, would you agree with that, Tom?
No, well, there isn't any cash reserve left to burn. Like, if that needs to be made any clear, Man United's chief executive Richard Arnold, when he was filmed at the local Manchester pub in, I think it was in Cheshire near his home. I can't remember where it was. Filmed with a couple of Man United fans, went down the pub, bought them a round of beers, and said, "Listen, let's have a chat." And went down there and he said, "Look, the sponsors are looking at pulling out. We haven't got cash reserves. The finances are draining at Man United. Like, we need investment. We need something coming in." And that was the telltale sign that the Glazer family needed to get some money into the club. And via doing so, they're going to get that with Sir Jim. If he is to come in, whether it be he borrows, uses his own money from somewhere, you know, I don't know. Like, your guess is as good as mine. But in terms of some, like, certain players, like, you can always put a deal in place with a club. Like, John Murtough is the sporting director right now, for example. He can go to Napoli as president and say, like, here's, you know, the release cost figure for Kim Min Jae, and we'll negotiate a contract, and if he agrees with it, that's fine. Like, you can have a deal agreed, but just stall it. Right, we've got a deal in place, haven't we, Napoli? Yeah. Right, we're just waiting for the new owners to come and finance it in, and if that's a player Eric Ten Hag wants, then the new owner's going to back him, because either or it goes to Sir Jim or Sheikh Jassim, they want Eric Ten Hag to be the manager, but they do both of the two parties want to make structural changes. But from my opinion, anyway, and from what I would think, I think any new owner is going to come in and do effectively what Todd Bowley did. Like, you come in, you get the lay of the land, you see what, you know, sort of positions people are holding. John Murtough, Darren Fletcher, you know, even Sir Alex Ferguson in an advisory capacity or ambassador role. Like, you see who's got what sort of roles, and if you want to keep certain people, get rid of them. Like, for starters, either or way of the two ownership groups, Richard Arnold will not be the chief executive of Man United. Like, if Sir Jim wins or Sheikh Jassim wins, he will be going.
Yeah.
And as I reiterated before, Sir Jim Ratcliffe has already got his eye on who he would want to be Man United technical director or director of football, and that's Paul Mitchell. So that would leave John Murtough out of a job in the long term as well. But maybe make do in the short term. But I think any new owner is going to consult with the manager and just say, it's me and you for this summer. We're going to do what I'm going to do. You tell me who you want within reason of XYZ capacity of a budget. If we can negotiate the right deals and we can get the players in that you want, we'll get them in and make the team successful for what we need to do in the short term. Then maybe midway through the first quarter of the season, people like John Murtough, Richard Arnold and stuff, they might leave office. They might not be Man United anymore. And then you'll see new people come into the club. From my understanding would be anyway, if Sir Jim Ratcliffe was to come into Manchester United, upon Richard Arnold's departure, he would take up the CEO role of Manchester United at that point in time before he further assesses who he wants to take over, effectively doing what Todd Bowley did. But Man United already have such as a director of football, and they have all the roles in place. But if you remove somebody from it, you've got to replace them at the end of the day. And as a short-term solution, Sir Jim Ratcliffe would replace Richard Arnold in that capacity. And if he didn't want to do it, well, he'd just give it to basically his right-hand man in Sir Dave Brailsford, who, if you like, more has a sporting background than a business background because of what he's done with Ineos cycling team, the old Sky Racing team, and what they've done with, Nice. He does have a say in what happens on the board at Nice Football Club as well. So there is different categories, but you can always get a deal in line for a player. But then you just got to wait for the owner to sign off on it, which ultimately the Glazer family won't do it if they're going to be not in control. So then you give that power and authority over to Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe, in that case, depending on what sort of investment he wants to make in a summer transfer window, personally, to get first impressions and to get a lot of the fans back on side for what he's done maybe with the Glazer family, he might have to invest over the odds. He might have to, because he needs to buy over the fans, because he's lost a lot of people with the proposal that he made.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Just reading some comments again. So Jim is probably United enough said. I know ZX is a troll. I think might be a Liverpool fan, so but shout out to you, bro. King Sasha, could we become a mid-table club with Ratcliffe as owner? God, I hope not. But it's not within the realms of possibility. We'll see. We'll see. United says Ratcliffe is Glazer's British half brother. They still want the Super League, and obviously United says thanks, Tom. Yep, exactly. Yep, Tom is the GOAT currently. To be honest, I don't know many journalists that speak as much sense as Tom has been. To be quite frank, if Ten Hag wins the league with Sir Jim, is that Doy a degree? Well, maybe King Stash will come back to that. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. Like, so I do want to kind of end with, if Sir Jim kind of wins, what do people see the future for Manchester United? Is it all glim? So we'll come back to that. So basically, they know bid Radcliffe win. Then okay, thank you both. Okay. Mega Johnson says it's so over. Declan says RIP Manchester United. Meg says we're finished. Derek Pro says Qatar's a lot of Qatar here. J Twist said, yeah, Qatar said the offer was fluid, so it could be readjusted to make them the preferred bidder. Hashtag Qatar and hashtag Rat out. United said Glazers are the devil. If you do a deal to keep them in, you are doing a deal with the devil in my books. And that is a lot of the fan opinion, because there's a lot of animosity towards the Glazers. And I think that's my thing with Jim. If I'm honest, at the beginning of the whole thing, I was never Sir Jim or Ratcliffe, because my assumption was that both owners wanted to buy the club. So I was very much like, you know what, for full ownership, whatever. I just want a different direction. I don't care. But I think what turned me was the idea that the Glazers were going to stay, even if it's in a minority position. The fact that the two things that told me, one was what Qatar said that they could potentially do regarding their investment, but two, the fact that Sir Jim effectively was keeping the Glazers there, are better in a minority position. Those are two things that made me turn against Sir Jim personally. But before I knew those two things, I really couldn't care less, in my personal opinion. I just want the Glazers gone. ZX says he's going to be smart about it, like Todd Bowley, aka Todd Bahari. Well, who knows? I'd hope he is. If he's a smart investor, I hope he's smart about it. Let's have a look. J Twist again says people say the Manchester can be self-sufficient, don't know how investment is needed in the club and how debt and interest needs to be paid for initial sale and transfers, etc. Exactly. And United says, and that's why I don't want a businessman. I want someone who loves the club football, not business. You can't make big money from football. I mean, and that is a fair argument. How much money, football these days, especially, if you want to win the big trophies and stuff like that, I think probably City have only started to really start turning a profit, in the last maybe 2 or 3 years. And it's been, 10, 12 years since they've, they bought, obviously, and even then they bought Manchester City for next to peanuts at that time. So of course they were going to make it, because they were a nothing club. If you're going to spend £1 billion on a football club right now, Manchester United, I'm curious to see how much profit you're going to make, but we'll see. ZX says, plus that must be a different conversation, so I can't feel a lot of chat. If Qatar don't bid 5.5 to the organizer says, If Qatar don't bid 5.6 billion, then we'll be owned by a rat. No new ground, no new training center for at least 3 years. Plus, we'll still have the leads at the club. I'll be done with this club. I mean, it's going to be difficult, isn't it? It's really going to be difficult. This is a point. Well, you don't have to watch. You don't have to watch, buddy. You don't have to watch. J2S says, question: have you heard anything on the Carlisle Group was supposedly changing their bid from a minority majority offer? That's interesting. Tom, do you have any information on that?
No, not from as far as I'm aware. Anyway, the Carlisle Group, in terms of any of the minority offers that were on the table, the terms of the offers were: we will bid for a minority percentage, but we're also prepared to provide a financing to a party that's interested in a full takeover, whether that be, like, for example, there's nothing stopping Sir Jim Ratcliffe after buying the club, as we're saying now that he doesn't have the money. There's nothing to state that he can't contact David Singer, for example, at Elliott Management, or he can't contact one of the Carlisle Group executives to then build a partnership with them and say, right, can you finance a new stadium and we'll give you 20% of the revenues that it makes, or something like that. Like, there's nothing stopping them doing that at all. Just like there's, like, at the end of the day, because Sir Jim has control, he can do what he wants. He can do business with who he wants. He can say what he wants. He can literally, like I say, he has the control. He has the authority. But with the Carlisle Group as themselves, as far as I was aware with them, they was only prepared to buy 22% of Manchester United for, I think it was around, I could be wrong, I think they were only prepared to pay for around $1.5 billion or something like that, just for 22%. Whereas the Glazer family, they were only wanting to part with 20% if they were going a minority option. So they wanted a bit more for the cash, but minority groups, as I've said throughout the whole process, I thought that was very unlikely, given how long the process had taken, when you're going to have loads of people who would be willing to invest in Man United, because Man United will always grow commercially. It will always grow. So from a business perspective, it suits. Sporting-wise is different, because depends what project and manifesto you want to cook up, really. And with Sir Jim, like you say, we don't know what that is, but like you reiterated, anyway, Sheikh Jassim, you know what he's about. You know what he wants to do if he bought the club. So that's sort of, I guess, the difference in the two sort of principles for the Carlisle Group, anyway, in terms of if they wanted to go for that. But look, stranger things have happened, and like you said, like we've already said, there's nothing stopping them changing their offer and saying, no, we want a majority offer. Like, you know, we'll bid 5.2 billion, or we'll match Sir Jim, or whatever. Like, don't rule it out. We've said about Elon Musk and people like that. There's nothing stopping these guys doing it if they wanted to. What's stopping them? Nothing.
That's fair. Thanks for clarifying that, Tom. Let's have a look and just further questions, and then we'll. No, United just says Qatar in. United says, Tom, what's up with City court case, and what do you think will happen to them for cheating? I don't know whether, Tom, you have the inside scoop on that. So, because I don't think we haven't heard a lot of that recently. So, but I guess as a side, you know, so is presumably they're going to be just get off lightly with a small tap on the back or something like that.
But I understand why people would ask that, because it happened in the middle of a season that it was announced that they'd been investigated. But and I said this at the time when it actually became public knowledge. Do not expect them to be punished in days, weeks, months. I mean, even in a year. Don't expect it, because the investigation into City on those 100 breaches of charges, like, it spanned over 4 years. The whole investigation. 4 years to investigate a football club financially. So if it took them that long just to investigate, like, don't worry. Like, in terms of a judgment or what's going to happen to Manchester City, I wouldn't expect anything to happen short term. When you investigate something for 4 years, I think you're going to want to go for whatever the highest punishment is in that case, whether that be a relegation, points deductions, deduction of titles, whatever it is. Like, they'll want to go for the throat, really. When you've invested that much time into investigating somebody, you're going to go for it, aren't you, at the end of the day?
No, that's fair. That's fair. Andy Oates says, please, no Ratcliffe. He won Qatar. I mean, I'm just looking at the poll, obviously, that I put in the chat. And thanks to obviously those who are voting. And I think we've got 101 votes. That's a fair amount. Shout out to those watching. If 101 people voted, guys, come on. We can use some more likes on this video, please, with the engagement. Like, if you're new, please subscribe. It will go a long way to the channel. If you want to consider supporting the channel, consider becoming a member to get access to member exclusive content as well. But at the very least, it doesn't cost a lot. Like the vid, drop a like. It goes a long way. But just going onto the poll, the 100 people voted. I mean, it's pretty unanimous. It's pretty unanimous. I mean, out of the 103 votes, to answer the question, do you want Sir Jim as the owner of Manchester United? Only 18% of people said yes, and 82% of people said no. So that's the sort of the Red Devil Studio. I mean, it could be different in other committees, but that's one. Oh yeah, Tommy, you have to head off. Okay, cool. We're just gonna round things up. Then I'm gonna quickly to comments, and I'm gonna just ask a final question, and then we'll just round things up. Declan Murphy again says nobody will offer $6 billion. They just chanced their arm. Jim met with them before, talk of a sale. They're good people, and Avram told us not necessarily a sale. This was always happening. That's an interesting theory. James says people are panicking so much that they are tracking planes now. What? Wow. Jeez, man. People are funny, man. People are funny. Crazy. I broke being there buying United. Only United can do this. I hate these American owners. Are we about to witness a great migration from United City if God Ratcliffe wins? # Blue System Studios. No. That's never happening. No, that's never happening. Yeah, exactly. I'll just do this. I'll just support FC United of Manchester. There you go. That's what I'll do. No, but not City, not City. Abby DL says, I want Qatar investment is United to come better. Zetek says City innocent, time will prove it. Well, they won't. Unfortunately, unlike last time, they're not taking into account time. Jado says apparently shares have been dropping, and Vaughn says 8% of the share price is falling. Be interesting. Mama says, is Sheikh Jassim give up, guys? Okay. United says, so if we get no new bid news by Sunday, it's Ratcliffe show to run then. And Keeman says, great show, guys. Yeah, I saw the plane thing, man. We're just honest because obviously Tom has to go, and thank you so much for coming on the show, Tim, again. Really appreciate it. As this is kind of funny question, if obviously Sir Jim Ratcliffe is officially deemed the preferred bidder and things go ahead, where do you personally see? How do you personally see, at least in the initial phases, things going for Manchester United Football Club, Tom?
In terms of when he buys it or when he gets
when he buys it, when he actually becomes a de facto owner, like at least in the initial stages, how do you see it kind of like working from us like a footballing sense, but also structuring sense as well?
Well, in terms of the structure, as I've already stated, he would want a new CEO come into Manchester United, and he wants a new technical director come into Manchester United. He knows who he would want as a technical director if he's still available, which would be Paul Mitchell. And he would want to build either a partnership with somebody to become the CEO of Manchester United, or he could use, if you like, one of his own men from Ineos or the Ineos Sporting Group. Like, use himself in the short term, give it to Sir David Brailsford in the long term or something like that. Like, give it to somebody who you trust, or I don't know, if you want to become it yourself, like by all means, or like there's nothing stopping Sir Jim getting somebody like I know a lot of people anyway have talked him up over the years, like an Edwin van der Sar come in and be CEO of Man United under the Ineos group. Like there's nothing stopping him going and if you like picking and choosing someone from another club and then making them the CEO of Manchester United. So in terms of in the short term, I don't think a lot would change because it's so short for you would have to get it. You're in the middle of a transfer window or the start of it. You know who the manager wants is his players and everything. I think it would be hard to pull people out of their roles and positions in the short term because you still need people who have some football knowledge. And these people know Manchester United more than you because they've been here longer. So effectively, I think keeping people like John Murto on and maybe Richard Arnold on in the short term would work out. You work a financial package for them and you lay them off. It happens, unfortunately. Somebody comes in, buys a new business, mate. You go to the new boss and you say, like, I've got a job. Like, you do it in the modern day world. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe would do that. He would want to work with people in the short term, have maybe, I don't know, a 3-month assessment, which would be pretty much the whole transfer window. And then if he wants to keep certain people and they change his mind, like, he might keep John Murto as in some capacity, I don't know, put him in the recruitment department, but you have Paul Mitchell leading it or something like that. Like, he might keep people on, but I would be very shocked if he kept Richard Arnold on, especially just because of the CEO position of him running the commercial side of the football club for the Glazer family. But, you know, credit where credit's due. In the short term, Richard Arnold hasn't actually done a bad job as the CEO of Manchester United since he took the position because he's kept his eyes on the commercial side of the club. He's not dabbled in the football club. He's left the football operations to the people who know the football, which is your John Murto, your Darren Fletchers, you know, your Sir Alex Ferguson's in an advisory and ambassadorial role. Like, he's distanced himself from the sporting side of things and he's gone with what he knows, which is finance and commercial. And he's been involved in the United group for years anyway. So from that end of things, that's how it would work. But even if the Qataris do what is being reported and what I expect them to do anyway and come up with an 11th-hour offer, and if it suits to then make them the preferred bidders and then they were to get in, I'd probably expect the same thing. They'll work with who's here now, and then in the long term, they'll probably structure people out and they'll appoint their own director of football. Listen, it could be Paul Mitchell as well. Like, you don't know. You know, it could be one of them. Like, there might be a Qatari footballer or somebody. I don't know. Like, they might just pull somebody out of nowhere and say, "Well, you used to be the technical director of Man United." So at the end of the day, either or way, whoever comes in, they want to make structural changes. The investment will be there for the first summer transfer window, I would presume, from either or of the owners to come in. But I guess most importantly to a lot of, and if you like, put music to a lot of Manchester United fans' ears is, Eric Ten Hag will 100% be the manager under either of the owners. The owners are not looking at dismantling the coaching team and the structure that's there now. They believe that Manchester United have the right man in either Sheikh Yassim's project with the Qatari offer or with Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the Ineos offer. Both groups equally look at Eric Ten Hag and say he's the right man for Manchester United under our vision of what we want to do.
Thank you so much for Tom. For final comments, and then obviously we'll round up. But thank you so much for Tom. As I said, thanks for Tom. Big up for Tom, and thank you so much for the donation. Really, really appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so much. You know, so like it does help keep the lights on, and investment will go back into the channel as well as I continue to try and cobble together and bring in good content. Stay tuned because hopefully, fingers crossed, me and HH are going to do a Chelsea preview, which will be very, very, very funny, very, very funny. So stay tuned to that. Thanks RDS. Take care. Oh, yep. So Tom has literally just headed off. So let me just quickly change all that. Yeah. So thanks again. Thanks everyone so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Respect both for a good show. What's your social, Tom? And it's actually in, and he's literally had to head off, Tom, because he's busy with family stuff. So, but it's actually in the description. So if you could see the description, it's at TomJournalist1. So at TomJournalist1, at TomJournalist1 is his Twitter. So if you want to follow Tom on Twitter, it's at TomJournalist1. It's in the description. So make sure that you check him out for some updates as well. Keeman says, shout out to Tom and keep the lights on. Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate the show. Thank you guys. Because guys, at the end of the day, like, you know, I hate speculation, reactionary merchants, etc. And Tom is probably one of the most respected journalists that I know, because even though he may not be as in the know as Seth Fabrizio, for example, he's dedicated to give you truthful news. He's not reactionary, and he's willing to give his time to just address any of the questions that we sort of have, which don't involve being reactionary, clickbaity, etc. He's a good friend of mine, you know. So hope you guys enjoyed the show. But guys, remember, we're rounding things off now. If you're new to the channel, we will obviously go live if anything changes. If you are new to the channel, like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. We had to rejig a few things because it was supposed to be the Wolves preview United form today, but that's not the case because of this breaking news. So that will be tomorrow, and we'll be doing the preview with the Wolves. I'll be doing a pre-match preview for the Wolves game, I think an hour before kickoff. And then United form has actually been pushed back to Sunday, where we'll review the whole week with the Champions League, Europa League, etc. But yeah, stay tuned for those shows. Have a nice day, everyone. Take care, everybody, and cheers. Peace, 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 peace.